Hello, folks. Hello. Welcome as people are joining us here. Today in our talk with our additional panelists here, we have kind of planned for 3 different themes that we want to cover. And these themes have come really from being part of this meetup every month. They come from the chat. They come from experience, our conversations with care partners. Everyone here on this screen is an ambassador in one way or another for the organization. So we talk with people in the community. So we are going to cover these 3 themes, and each of the sections of our conversation today will kick off with a poll question. So that'll give you in the audience an opportunity to share something kind of related from your life in the poll that will help guide our conversation. And we also know that so many people watch this meetup well after the fact in the recording. So hello, if you're watching us as a recording, we love you too, even though we don't get to talk with you live all the time. And I will go ahead and read the questions and the answers as we go along. So if you're watching this after the fact and you want to pause and consider how you might respond to that question before continuing the video, that would be great too. So that's our plan for today. And I think I will take up no more time and pass the mic over to our wonderful fearless leader, Connie Carpenter-Phinney, who will help you get to know who these wonderful faces are on your screen, and we will take it from there.
Thank you, Jenna. I know you were speaking quickly, trying to get that all in. I want to welcome everyone as well, and say, we are here for you. Pat and Gail are my regular panelists here, co-panelists. Gail is recovering from back surgery and looking very sparkly over there. I'm so happy that you're going to be out of pain soon. And just so happy that you're with us. Pat's on summer break from his job as a school teacher.
Yep.
And we have 2 other care partners joining us today. I'm Connie Carpenter-Phinney. I'm a co-founder of the Davis-Phinney Foundation. I've been living with my guy, Davis, who's had Parkinson's now for more than 25 years. So a wealth of experience up here, including Dennis Tinley and Fernando Ramos. I hope I said that right. And I want each of you guys to just tell us a bit about who you're caring for and a bit about you, okay? So just, Dennis, you want to go first?
Sure. I care for my wife, Mary. I'm her care partner. She was diagnosed 2017. I've been her care partner since the beginning. And I'm also an ambassador for the Davis-Phinney Foundation. So I spend a lot of time in support groups and counseling people that are interested in learning more about, what kinds of things that I've done to get this far or not.
It's a complex disease. We appreciate you being part of our community so much. And by the way, before I let Fernando speak, any of our caregiver ambassadors can be found on our website at the Davis-Phinney Foundation. So, if you have further questions after the talk, they can be found there. But Fernando, you're here with us now. Do you want to tell us a little bit about you?
Yes, absolutely. Hello, everyone. I'm Fernando Ramos, joining from Phoenix, Arizona. Very excited to be here. And I care for my dad. He was diagnosed in 2019. I am the oldest of 5 siblings, so we all team up for his care, and very involved with Davis-Phinney and conferences. Just had the World Parkinson's Congress, which was amazing. We volunteered for that, and just helping out as much as possible for the Hispanic community with Claudia and Ruby here. So it's very exciting.
Yeah, thank you so much. And you do bring a unique perspective. I think most of the people when we poll our group are spouses. And I know for myself, because my mom had MS, that I know what it's like to be the child of someone with a chronic neurological illness. And your family's lucky to have you, especially your dad. And you're lucky to have other siblings who chip in, because a lot of times people don't live close to home, and that becomes part of the problem. Jenna, where do you want to start today?
Yeah, so We're going to get our first poll pulled up here, and I think Ariel will help us with that in the background. And one of the first kind of themes that have come out of the work that we do with Care Partners is a challenge with recognizing change. So you're going to see this poll question that asks, what aspect of Parkinson's progression has been most difficult for you to understand or adapt to? And you can pick up to two. Maybe all of these resonate. Maybe none of them resonate. So if you're dealing with something that we didn't even think of, throw that in the chat. But you might be thinking that changes in physical abilities has really been challenging to understand and adapt to, dealing with cognitive changes, emotional or behavioral changes, changing level of independence, fluctuation from day to day, and even just a simple statement that I'm not sure what's normal and what isn't. What should I be watching for? What do I need to be reporting and whatnot? And this, really is asking a question about, navigating Parkinson's. But we recognize too, as people with human bodies, you might be experiencing physical changes or cognitive changes or emotional changes. So just pick what resonates for you today in that poll. And we'll really start to kind of orient our conversation there in, recognizing change and understanding what's normal in something like Parkinson's, which probably day to day feels anything but normal, and seems to be full of changes and surprises at times. So maybe I'll even just kind of pose this as folks are answering that poll, and we will show the results here in a second. Maybe I'll kind of start this with our panelists here. What aspects of Parkinson's progression have been most difficult for you to change or adapt to? When I read those questions and you see those pieces, did anything leap out to you as something that's been particularly challenging? Ooh, enthusiastic nods. See, we're never alone here at the Care Partner Meetup.
Yes.
So, Gail, maybe do you want to kick us off? And then Dennis, I see you were nodding as well.
I think the most challenging thing, and one of the earliest things in my husband's case with Lewy body, is his mental ability to figure out a check, remember to put the gas cap on the car after he filled it up. Those were the things that jumped out at me at the very beginning that were the most disturbing, because when you depend upon someone for things like that, even though they're little things, the surprise is just lights go on. And that was like the first time I realized there's something going on here. Yeah.
Anybody else want to jump in?
Yeah, so I'll jump in. I similar for me, it was Mary's cognitive changes, short-term memory, ability to organize thoughts and the task. Sometimes can be absolutely stunning as it starts to play out in front of you, and so we spend a lot of time on how to compensate for that, and tools and tricks that we use to better organize things on paper, calendars, the typical kinds of things, but really work on it because it helps Mary a lot. It's a real source of frustration when you can't do things you used to be able to do. And so we try to compensate that through other.
I think recognizing and compensating. I think the hard thing about recognizing cognitive changes is that the person themselves often, the neuropsych I remember told me, you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. And so that's a hard part for all of us. And I think what we're seeing here is that 60% of the people are having that same experience. And it's a close tie between changes in physical abilities and emotional or behavioral changes at 35% of people. But everybody has some level of the other symptoms that are difficult in the spectrum of progression. And I would say that I think with the emotional and behavioral changes are really tied to medications as well, and that cycle that a lot of people are on. So I understand that too. Fernando, did you have something to add to that you've seen with your dad?
Oh yes, the emotional and behavioral changes is a new one that we're learning to deal with. There's days where with the recent change of medication, he is overly happy, singing, laughing, and then the next second gets emotional and crying and things like that. So it's been a roller coaster, and also a little bit of behavioral changes because how do you tell your dad that he shouldn't be doing certain things, or that he needs to adjust his routine. So it's a little bit complex, but we are learning to manage as a care team.
Yeah, I think that is the hardest part with a parent is you're used to their behavior and them being, especially if it's your parent that's been the head of the family, and they're used to telling you to behave, not you telling them, or questioning their behavior, and I think that's super challenging. And again, I hope everybody heard that when Fernando said the care team, that he's relying on his siblings, and it's a team effort, and I think that's something. I think with spouses, sometimes we feel really alone. We feel like we're the only ones. And so many people have said over the years that we've been doing this that they're afraid to tell their children too much. And so they don't bring the adult children in to help. And I think that's a mistake too, for a lot of us, because we're trying to protect our children, but it doesn't protect us. So I think we should think about that. Pat, what do you have something to add?
Oh, we can write a book about this, right? The changes in physical abilities is one of the things that, we went for 10 years with normal functioning and normal abilities. We rode our bikes all over the country and everything. And then after that, it's gone, so the physical abilities have changed. She's not been able to do as much as she's been able to do in the past. She has had also emotional and behavioral changes such as anxiety, the Parkinson's anxiety that happens a lot. And we've had 2 surgeries to help work with that, and we're still working on it. So it's
and I think some of the other things, and maybe you guys want to react, my panelists want to react a little bit to thinking about, the fact that Parkinson's is so unpredictable, right? And that it's sometimes it's predictably unpredictable, right? And that doesn't help because it doesn't always give us tools, but it also gives us some grace, maybe a pause in how we respond sometime, and in our capacity to accept the behaviors, and also to know that some of these behaviors are short term, not long term. So maybe some comments on that.
Well, Connie, when a person is starting to lose their ability to function mentally, to me, that's such a strong aspect of the disease as opposed to the physical ones, because that tells me you're losing the person that you married. Their mind is not working the same way. They're a new individual. You can deal with the physical aspects, but once that person's mind is diminished, you feel like you're losing that individual, and that makes it really hard. And living on a tightrope day in, day out, not knowing which way that rope is going to be shaking, makes life very, very very difficult, and it keeps you constantly on guard, which is exhausting.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And to be fair, someone also asked about delusions in the chat. I saw that, and that is another aspect of this, and of course, kind of plays into both the emotional aspect and the mood aspect, as well as the all of it actually. And so it's important to let your doctor know. This is another thing about being a proactive care partner, is having the capacity to speak with the medical team, because they are part of your care team. They are your team, and let them know what kind of delusions are occurring, and seek treatment and help for that, because that is a complex part of Parkinson's and affects a lot of people with Parkinson's. So thanks for bringing that up. Any other thoughts on?
So I think as a care partner, the trap you fall into sometimes is chasing an outcome, right? I must be able to fix this somehow, right? And often the fix is to just be there for them, right? There isn't any pill or anything that you can give them that's going to all of a sudden make this different. So important thing is to be there for them.
Yeah.
I might add that you'd be there for yourself too.
And for yourself.
Yeah.
Ooh, wait, what? What, Pat?
Huh? Be there for yourself. Take care of you.
Yeah. Thanks
'Cause
for that reminder.
This is also overwhelming and everything as we go through because it is a roller coaster ride.
Yeah.
And, you never know. I mean, Cindy will be sleeping all day and then come evening time, she's energize her bunny all over the house. And how to accommodate that, how to make adjustments and so forth. It's different.
It's very hard to be predictable. And I think, Fernando, you were speaking to that too.
Yeah.
This is, you see your dad behaving one way and then he's behaving another way. Pat's saying that. How do you mentally and emotionally manage it yourself, Fernando, and your family, do you think, when you see that kind of behavior?
Well, it was a process. One of the medications caused a spike in what I can call happy moods and singing and joy. And we were very happy to have him back because that was his original personality before Parkinson's. And it took us a little bit to understand that this was a side effect of the medication. And and then it went back down. So it was difficult, but just researching, we have a group chat that we created back when he was diagnosed, and all siblings communicate. Whoever visits says what they saw that day and how they handled it, and we keep each other updated. So that's how we are able to manage that.
Yeah. That's such I don't know where you got that from, Fernando, but that is such strength right there to be able to do that, all of you together, and to be able to communicate. And I have to imagine that that your dad can feel that too, and that's helping. And just so everyone knows, I mean, the thing that we're all trying to do is support our person with Parkinson's, right? And the better we do that, the better it is for us personally, which is important, but also for our person. And because it isn't predictable, means we need to have this grace, to allow for these changes and to do what Fernando just said their family did, which was to research a little bit more to understand. And then you need to know when you need to be able to communicate with the doctor as well, and when it's a normal part of the cycle. And that's a hard part too. Jenna, should we, okay, Gail, you have something, and then maybe we should.
I mean, as a care partner, you want to be able to control everything. And the hardest part is to learn when to let go. I don't mean let go, give up. I mean, it's always choose your battles. And I always talk about reducing the battles and spending more loving time together to make good memories, because otherwise you could be at war all day long if you don't let go of certain things. If they miss their medication, the whole world is not going to crash down. So, you have to learn how to soothe yourself, and you're as perfect as anyone could possibly be, and you're doing the best job you can. You can't do it all. You can't control it all. So there are times that you just have to let go. It's better for your health and better for your relationship with your person.
Good advice as always. Jenna, should we get to the next poll?
Yeah, I think that would be great. And certainly I think these themes all touch each other. And, some of what we have just talked about, I think we'll revisit as we continue this conversation. But I think we can kind of pull up this next poll. And, I think, Gail used the image of a tightrope, which I think is a really relatable one for anyone who's taking care of a person. And really what we just said was we want to be present. We want to let, accept that we're doing a great job and not be thinking too much in the future. And also, we're often thinking in the future. Parkinson's is asking us to navigate the road that's filled with fog, right? And so we recognize that, while that's really good advice, it's also, it's a tricky line to walk. So the second poll, we're going to start to talk about How do we feel prepared? How do we act proactively within this environment we just talked about that is unpredictable even day to day, much less, a year or 6 months or 3 years into the future? How do we walk that line? That's something we hear from care partners all the time. So this question asks us, what do you currently feel unprepared to handle or take on? And again, you can pick up to 2. If something on here comes to mind that we didn't think of, please tell us. But this might be managing changing medications. We've talked a little bit about that. Having transparent conversations with family members, building a support network, financial or legal planning, teaching a person with Parkinson's to adopt new skills or tactics for daily living, asking friends and family for help. Again, you're going to see we've already talked about a number of those themes, but if there's anything within that list that's really leaping out to you as a listener today, or if you're watching this video, just think about what is something that you're feeling right now. You're like, man, I really don't know. I'm not sure how to manage that. That's really feeling out of reach for me or overwhelming for me.
And it could be something that you've sort of let go thinking it's for later. Because I think this is the other thing with Parkinson's, that some of this stuff sneaks up on you. You do. Sometimes we get in cruise control, and things are going smoothly, and so then, you've sort of forgotten that you haven't been managing the meds, or you haven't, made that doctor appointment, or all of a sudden you really feel you need more support, and you don't have it. And I think one of the things, and we talk about it a lot here, and I'm just giving you time to keep answering the questions. I think most people could probably tick all of these, by the way. But but I think that the two, it's just so easy to put things off, and also help and really bolster our person when we're out in public, so that our friends don't know how much help we need, So are we ready to give results, or are we still going?
I think we can start to pull up these results, but I think we can also, if any of those themes, again, as we did last time with our panelists, if any of these answers really leapt out to you as you were reading them, right here, actually, we do have the poll answers up here. Interestingly, half of us said teaching our person with Parkinson's to adopt new skills, which is something that has, already been alluded to. How do you adapt, and how do you get the person to adapt? And Fernando already talked a little bit about, the added challenge of that dynamic with a parent. We're also seeing that building a support network, which we'll actually talk a little more deeply about as we go through today, is a top challenge, along with asking friends and family for help, which is kind of 2 ways to say a similar thing, perhaps. Not far behind, though, the financial planning, navigating with family members and managing medications are all there. So I don't know what's leaping out to our panelists here. Were any of these responses, or something else completely? When you think about preparedness, proactiveness, what comes to mind for you?
Yeah, I'd like to share that for me. It's been it's not on the list necessarily, but his potential loss and progressive loss of independence has been really hard to adapt, because we no longer live at home, except for one brother who is working a lot to keep the financial part going. So it's something that we are starting to talk about, but are definitely not feeling prepared for. The potential of him being in a wheelchair or needing care during the day is seems to be creeping up on us.
Yeah,
It does creep, and then all of a sudden it attacks. So I think it's good that you're thinking about that and being prepared. Pat?
Yeah, that one creeps up on you, and then it happens. And I hadn't thought of that as being one that I'm worried about so much, because we're constantly working on it. Sydney's she's lost some of her ability for balance. And if you think of the the Wicked Witch and the Wizard of Oz, when she gets the water thrown on her and she's melting, that's how Sydney falls down. She just slowly goes down, but then she can't get herself back up. That's been a big concern for me. So I purchased a whole bunch of those tiles that you put under athletic equipment. Like maybe you're setting up in your garage, or you're at it, or you're upstairs, or in a room or something, where you put that down where it be soft. And so now our kitchen is full of these foam pads, and they're all linked together like a puzzle. And I put that in the kitchen. I'm about to put it into the bathroom. I found her on Sunday. She'd been down for 15 minutes. I went to go look for her. She was on the floor. She didn't have her phone. Trying to get her to wear her Apple Watch where she can send a signal. But, that's a big thing, but it's an ongoing thing. But the big thing that I have is that I'm looking out for is the financial planning. We've got our legal planning done, but our day-to-day finances, that was part of our agreement when we got married, that she handles that. Because I don't have a great track record in it, but as we go along, some things get forgotten, and I need to stay on top of it, being able to communicate about it versus sticking my head in a bucket of sand like I used to do 20 years ago.
Okay, but Pat, this is also the place where one needs to maybe consult with a wise friend who could potentially help with that too. So don't put it all on your shoulders. You're still the one.
True, and I have done that. I've reached out to a good friend of mine who's a whiz at these sort of things, and we haven't followed through on it yet, but we hope to at some point.
And I think that part, there's a lot of professionals out there, and probably some of them are your friends, and you could rely on them, and again, this is the cultivating the team you didn't think you needed.
Exactly.
And many of our listeners know that Pat had pivoted to become a school teacher because of more favorable hours and also more favorable health insurance. And there are really proactive things you can do early in the game, but many of us find ourselves later in the game having not thought about that, or having not having the capacity to do that. So it takes some thought, and it takes asking for help sometimes. And there are support groups, and there are, good friends that just, you haven't let them understand your situation. Share. Go, Gail.
Connie, someone talked about motivation, and being an ambassador, I get a lot of people talking to me about their person not being motivated and how devastating it is when you're trying to do everything you can to keep things as normal as possible and do as much as you can for that individual, and that person has no motivation to do for themselves.
And let's remind our listener that the lack of motivation is apathy, and it is part of the disease, and it is also a somewhat treatable part of the disease. And so it's another part of the disease, especially if it's a real change in behavior, that you just need to let the medical team know, because there are some ways to help manage that. But that is a heartbreaking part of it, especially if your person was, heretofore very active and proactive. And Parkinson's is a very isolating disease. I'm not telling anyone anything they don't already know, but it's part of what we have to be careful of, and part of why we need kind of all hands on deck. But I think, but looking at this, building a support network, it starts one person at a time.
Honey, one other thing that we haven't touched on, and many people talk to me about it, when they share what goes on in their life with their children often get on their case and tell them they're not doing this right or that right, and we should do this for dad or that for dad. And that makes a care partner feel so angry and depressed. Instead of getting the kind of support they get criticism. So I don't know if anyone has experienced that, but I've heard that a lot of that from care partners.
Yeah, I had a similar question, actually, hearing what Fernando's family, is doing as a team. It's really wonderful.
Yeah.
And you still have family dynamics, and you still have opinions. And I'm curious if, you and your siblings have navigated, that's a little bit of a different dynamic than maybe a kid to a parent, a kid who's not as involved. But, as a team effort, have you had to, are there rules? Are there boundaries? Are there, ways you guys have set it up to try to work well with each other in such a high emotional, situation?
Definitely, we have had to adjust and be kind and more patient to each other than we were growing up. Fortunately, we haven't gotten to a point where the differences in of opinion when it comes to his care have created any lasting rifts within between us, but we we have learned a lot about ourselves and about working together for a common goal. So um, can't think of any specific things right now, but overall we express our opinion on the subject at hand, and we usually go with my sister. There's four guys and one girl, and she's the wise one of us all. So she usually proves her point better than us, and she is actually more involved in the medical side than me. So we defer to her.
Find the Maida in your family and listen to her. Is that
Yes,
your advice,
yes.
Con?
You know that,
Yeah.
but I make sure you see too. It's nice. It's nice if you have a care team where different people have different, areas of concentration. So, and Fernando's saying his sister is better with the medical side. She may also be wiser, but there's, you need a mediator, between the people that are caring, and especially family members, because of the baggage that we bring, the dynamic that we bring. And we need an agreement that we're all working toward the same goal. And the people, especially if you have people that want to help, even my own brothers, for example, that live far away, they don't know where to start, right? How do they know? They don't live here. And that's very true with a lot of people with their adult children. They don't live close enough to really understand what's at stake day to day, and the personal cost to you, the care partner. And even if you think your person is really well managed, you're still worrying about them all the time. So, the load on the care partner is always high. And we had some care partner experts from the biological side a couple of months ago telling us that, about the weight on our own bodies, our own personal health when we get overloaded. And so before you need it, you need to start asking for more help. And again, it's one person at a time, and it's looking at, what is it? Which part of this equation is what needs solving first? If my person's not going to drive anymore, and finances are tight, people can donate to like a rideshare account for you on your behalf and help fund that. I've talked to people about doing that, because they're not there to help give rides, and so there's just ways to ask for help. If you belong to a faith community, there's really more automatic ways. But maybe you once belonged to, some sort of a club, a bridge club, a chess club, the bike club, whatever it is. And there's people there that you knew from a while ago and you haven't seen, and you think, oh, I shouldn't. But yes, you should ask. You'd be surprised who steps forward. The thing that we know as humans and science bears out is that helping other people is good for our own health. It may wear us down as, care partners, but it's also very good for our friends to step in and help us out. You're actually helping them out. How's that? Does that help?
Yeah, it's been my experience too, that once you make them aware that you have a need and they jump in, you hear so often, I'm so glad you asked me, because sometimes they're looking for, how can I best help? How can I best help? So, give them something that works for you and works for them. It really does make a difference.
Yeah.
As I'm getting ready to go back to school, I'm about to throw out the net as far as finding people to step in and come in and just hang out and be there for Sydney when she's home alone. I'm leaving the charter world and I'm going back to the school district. I don't know if I told you that, Connie, but I was assigned to a school that's 0.6 of a mile from my house. In fact, we put 5 kids through there. And so I'm very excited about that being close. Yeah. the raise in income is going to be nice, but I'm still looking for the opportunity to retire in the next couple of years, if not 1 year, but we'll see.
Yeah.
That's a good point, Pat. Planning for your own future, like as a person, it can be hard to, I think, make time to do that, right?
I think about Gail a lot lately because I'm looking at Sydney and I'm going, I see the changes in her. Now after her last surgery, she cut all of her hair off and she's going to go white. Her hair is naturally white now. And so she has a little boy's haircut with white hair that she hasn't really exposed yet to the public. But I forgot why I brought that up, but
just thinking about your own future, I think, Pat, is what you were.
I'm looking at what Gail's been through, and what's the future for me, and what's the future for Sydney, and because as you see those changes, and another thing, so you have to plan for yourself, and you have to plan for your person, because Sydney has a lot of life in her. She's still Sydney inside of her. She's still Sydney on the outside of her too. It's just sometimes things are difficult right now, and we hope that she's still navigating the last surgery and the medication changes and things like that. We're hoping that that's all going to gel and be a better conglomerate. But one of the things about siblings, we had one of our sons over with his two kids, a daughter and a boy. So two of her grandchildren over, and Sydney was sitting out. They were all in the pool, and Sydney was sitting by the pool. I was in the house baking bread, go figure. But some more me time. But one of the things I noticed was that our son asked her, "Do you need help sitting up in a different position?" And I was actually sitting there with her at the time. And it got me to thinking, well, if it's not bothering me, then it shouldn't bother you because she hasn't asked for it. So I still allow her to take care of herself and be able to ask for help when she needs it, but also knowing that we need to ask her if she needs help. That's a big thing. But I had a conversation with Sydney afterwards and said that we really should have a talk with the kids about how I let her do things that are comfortable for her in her way. And it may not, and I've noticed it, in my extended family, when we go out of town, that they'll overprotect her where I don't overprotect her because I know she's okay. I'm there when she's not. And so it's kind of getting that mesh together. And it sounds like Fernando, sounds like you have a really good thing going on with your siblings.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point too. Is you have good communication with Sid. Some people are talking about not having that, and that's
sometimes I get in trouble with that too. But
yeah, and again, to the people in the chat that are suffering because the communication falls apart, it is part of this unpredictable roller coaster that we're on, and it doesn't mean it's right. It just means it might not last, and so it's something you'll have to navigate. I would really encourage people to take notes as well to when the person is behaving, in your opinion, let's say the worst, when it's most difficult for you and when it's easiest for you. Like, make both of those notes to yourself on a daily basis before you act, and really take a look at that, because you might find a trend there. It might be medication related, could be food related, absorption of medicine related, and things like that. And so could be news, like they could watch the news and they get agitated after the news. I just solve that by not watching the news.
yeah, don't watch the news.
So everybody needs to kind of, find this. I mean, I also got really agitated last night because we were watching the soccer game, our final game for the U.S. team.
Yeah.
I was like, no, come on, guys. So there are things that agitate, even the care partner. But I think it's important to know what the root cause is of that and try to get at that too. But Jen, I know we've had a few questions in the chat.
Yeah, the chat's been great today. So if you haven't had a chance to scroll through, please do as you're listening to us as well, because there's lots of interesting exchange and yes ands and other things. And, I think there's a lot of different directions we could go. I'm seeing people who are struggling, with talking with healthcare professionals. You just talked about, Connie, kind of navigating your person, some of the behavior change, which Fernando also talked about a little bit earlier as well. But, we did start the poll with, people saying like, trying to teach my person to adapt, to teach new things. And certainly we've touched on a number of reasons there could be barriers to that. There could be apathy going on. There could be behavior change going on, motivation, safety. There's all kinds of reasons that can be tricky. But I wonder, before we move on to our final theme, which we'll kind of revisit again, this sort of resource building and how are you building your team, your foundation, what you need. Maybe we just kind of come back and briefly touch on that of, when it comes to working with, your person or, what you've seen other people navigate, when you have to adapt, they got to participate to learn a new thing, learn a new tool, a technology. We had people talking about, to your point, Pat, I just need her to wear her watch. So when she falls, it'll tell me, right? Like, how are you navigating, or have you had any success, with navigating some?
Let me just kick that off with one thing, Dennis, before you go. And that is also that sometimes the best help you can get is the outside help, because if they can't hear it from you, is that what you were going to say, Dennis?
Yes, thank you.
I was reading your mind. I'm sorry.
Stole my thunder there.
But I don't know what you would add, but I also know that this is the whole point of occupational therapy.
Yes.
Is to come in, and they will make house calls. They will come in and assess your home, see and it also goes to Pat's point of padding the floors, is that if you're lucky, if you're fortunate, and if you press hard enough, sometimes you have to press hard, they need to come into your home. That's what they're trained for, and look at, how they can help. And they're not going to speak you might want to be in the background. You probably don't want to leave when they're there, but let them talk to your person with Parkinson's. Let them manage that stream of communication. Dennis, how would you manage that?
Well, we're going through something like that now with Mary's experienced freezing of gait more recently. And Pat, this is similar what you're saying about falls, because your body doesn't act the way it used to. So we're going through this now, and we're having some good success. Mary has a physical therapist who's working with her on how to make a turn, right? And you would think that's simple to do, but it's no longer simple when you freeze, right? And it's often a cause for falls, because you reach one direction and your body doesn't go with you. And so the physical therapist has been outside help who is also very good at it. And I would say, especially for people that are newly diagnosed, you can't you can easily underestimate the importance of a physical therapist, and getting a relationship there early, so that as it becomes more needed, you have something in place, and they can do an assessment, they can monitor progress, and they can help you to spot things before they become problems. So I'm just a big believer in that. We've had a lot of success with finding the right physical therapist, and we're going through that right now. So
I remember being so stunned when I heard the head of Kaiser in California a number of years ago giving a talk to a group of 800 people with Parkinson's, and saying that every person, when diagnosed, and listen up because this has not happened to any of us probably, should be assigned a neurotrained physical therapist that stays with them through the course of their disease.
yes.
We would be lucky to have that opportunity, but yes, we need to avail ourselves. Those of us on Medicare, cost is not as much of a problem. Usually can get a lot of visits. It's more prohibitive when you're younger. It is one of the advantages of aging in America, but it is, it's a high bar sometimes to get the right help in there. So keep pushing, everyone. Keep pushing. Let them know how urgent it is, because nobody wants your person to go to the hospital, because they've fallen and gotten hurt. What else?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think I'll probably, oh, sorry, Gail.
No, I was just
Gail.
saying that you have to really be proactive. Don't
Yeah.
wait for the first fall.
Right.
I've had people, I say, oh, in your bathroom, do you have this? Do you have that? Oh, he doesn't fall. Really, Zill.
Oh, wait.
He doesn't fall yet.
Mm-hmm.
So you really have to, even though you don't think you need certain things, just do it anyway. Because with Parkinson's, since it's progressive, sooner or later, and it's better to get it, because anytime your individual with Parkinson's falls or gets injured, the onus is on the caregiver. And it complicates your life terribly. And the setback is enormous for the person with Parkinson's. So don't wait for things. Don't just try to be proactive. Listen to all the different stages and pick up on that and get to it before you need it.
Yes.
That I was going to say something similar, Gail. Yeah, Fernando. I bet this is also a important thing in your family.
Oh, absolutely. A few years ago, we had a bathroom remodel, and it was my sister again who recommended we invest a little more in widening the door for a wheelchair to, comfortably slide in, and then add the bars to the shower for holding on to. So we didn't see it at the time because he was freshly diagnosed, but now we're so glad that we did that.
Yes, we can't have crystal balls, but I think having strong rehab therapists early on can really, that's a big deal. And to your point, I think the point was well made here. Referrals, don't wait for the referral either. Ask for it. There's lots of data about how lacking we are in referrals for rehab therapists. And your rehab therapist will be so happy to meet you when you're not trying to claw back a bunch of, skills that have been lost, but thinking proactively as a partner with you. They will be thrilled to do that with you. So great. Well, good. All right. Well, we're going to kind of move on to our final theme, which is really an extension of something we've already talked about, which is, how do we build our team? How do we share the load? How do we find those resources? It's an incredibly difficult and complicated topic. And we'll start with the poll here. Since we have about 11 minutes left, I'll kind of read through these poll questions. And what I might ask our team, our wonderful panelists here to do is to think a little bit about, what is the one piece of sort of guidance that you might offer folks who are looking to build that resource? We've talked about this a bit, but what do you wish someone would have told you about, building your team? What is something someone did tell you that you're like, that was my aha moment. It gave me permission, whatever it needed. So maybe I'll plant that seed and we'll do a little bit of a lightning round of advice for our close here. But our final poll is asking kind of, when do you find yourself needing more support without knowing where to look? Which is probably often, but there might be a time that after there's been an incident or a change in care, right? So after that fall that happened, or, after a change in care after surgery, something like that, you're looking around and you're saying, where's my village then? When a new medication treatment, something has been prescribed or recommended. So, Fernando talked about, we were dealing with these side effects, we're kind of like on this roller coaster, and where do we turn for help to know what's what and how to deal with them, or how to implement or even keep up with a new treatment. When unrelated life events happen, because Parkinson's is not our whole life. So, when taxes come up, when we have a family gathering, we have to travel, something in your house breaks and you're looking around saying like, wow, this is kind of the one too many things. Or, you know what? It's just without rhyme or reason. You don't need a reason. Sometimes you're just like, I just need help and I'm not sure where to look. And it might happen at surprising moments even. So if any of those resonate with you, let us know, or, feel free to put your own answers in the chat. But,
and I think we're getting a message.
Take it away.
We're getting the message that you can only pick one. It does say pick your top two, but just pick one. And, I think on all of these, we could pick all of them, right? So I think just weight it, which one is the heaviest burden. And we hear you and we see you out there in the chat. And what I love most when I see people helping to solve each other's issues in the chat, because we can't always get to all the topics, but it's really important to put those thoughts out there, because sometimes you can't put, you're holding so much in. So please just always put as much as you can into the chat, and we'll get to what we can. I want to also really acknowledge people that are listening today who maybe are new to Parkinson's, and this may feel really overwhelming to you. I want to really applaud you for showing up. Full stop. Just thanks for being here. And I want to thank everyone for being here, because in these moments, you can see we're all dealing with a lot of the same issues, but in our own ways, in different ways, and some communal ways. And so just pause and think a little bit about that too before we blast into these last few minutes. Gail?
Yes. What is this here? The thing is that I have to remind everyone not to forget about your own health. So don't put off finding an internist for yourself, a dentist for yourself, all these things, because just because you're being a care partner for someone doesn't mean that your body has needs also. And if you're going to let everything slide, you're going to end up in a situation that surprises you and you're not prepared for. So make sure that you have all your own medical care taken care of at the same time that you have your individual's medical care taken care of, because that could be even more devastating when you need to be taken care of, surprisingly, and you haven't made any arrangements to have your own medical team.
And I think that's what's coming up here. So when you see this, what's the thing you're most afraid of, an incident or a change in care? The incident could also be for yourself. We had Lani in the chat also saying, that they were injured. I fell and broke my hand last year, and I couldn't believe how incapable the two of us were when we were down to one good hand, meaning mine. Luckily, it was my right hand. But, and truly, and I think, Fernando, you'll appreciate this, because it was my adult daughter who said, "Mom, you're not prepared for something to happen." and it was truly the case, that I felt somewhat, impervious to to all the things I've been saying. So evaluate that for yourself, and let's make sure we give everybody on the panel a chance to kind of run around this topic or whatever topic you want as we're closing out, because this is kind of our last few minutes. Who wants to start?
I can share something that we have. Another thing we've also been dealing with, the changes in behavior and symptoms kind of go together for us, and those have been very difficult to adjust to, because we haven't always been the best at relating them to Parkinson's. Some of the things that have changed with compulsive behavior, we thought he was just getting a little bit more stubborn because of age, or just wanting his independence, or wanting a little bit of leisure time and things like that. And similar with the eating, overeating has been a little bit of an issue. And it's hard because he has to work on gaining weight. But he has shared with us that sometimes he has a hard time stopping having dinner, or too much food for dinner, which then in turns affects the sleep and affects the medication. And it took us a little bit longer than it should have, I think, to relate that to Parkinson's. But now we know it's compulsiveness can be a side effect.
Yeah. And what a good point, because you know what? It is hard, even with aging, to separate what's aging and what's Parkinson's. But then when you bring in some of the, really stronger, emotional and mood characteristics that surface, it's really hard to separate things out. So thanks for sharing that. That was a good point. Someone else, Pat?
Yeah, building a team is, one of the first things we did, I think. It's The one thing when we realized we didn't have a doctor, we found one that we could be on our team. We had a doctor and he just wasn't on our team. And now he works in Fresno. I think I've said that before. But having in fact, after this meeting, we're running down to our doctor's office to work on some medication changes that we're going through. And he set aside 5-10 minutes for us to come in. And I know that's not always available, but we've been real blessed with a great doctor. Our neighborhood, the Sunshine for Sydney group, that comes in and sits with her. When she had her surgeries, I had the problem with overeating because she wasn't eating and they kept bringing food, and that would, what do you do? But to have that team,
I think, Pat, you have an exemplary team, people that rally around you, but it doesn't happen by chance.
No, you have to ask for it.
You have to ask for it, but also you've given so much help to others. And I think that's true of everyone on this panel. Dennis, do you have something to add to that at the end?
I would say it's about me on that. That's the.
Go ahead, Pat.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we talked earlier about apathy and losing connections with friends, and we've been going through that. I would say the last year, and so one of the techniques we've come up with is to identify who the people are that Mary really wants to connect with, but has a hard time doing it. And I think the cognitive changes contribute to that, right? It's like, if I get on the phone, what will I talk about, right? It's those kinds of things. So we created a method on index cards where you put the name of the person and some topics. With that, I've noticed, feels more comfortable. I'll get on the phone and I'll have something to talk about because I have a few things to prompt me. And it's, once she finishes a few of those calls, like, wow, I wish I had done that earlier because I made a connection that lost. So there's a little trick that we find to be useful so far.
That's a great idea. And also a reminder from some others about speech therapy and not to disregard that as well, because so often the person feels like, well, I just can't say what I mean to say today, and I'm not thinking fast enough to get those words out. So I think the cue card is an awesome idea. Gail?
I was just thinking about the socialization aspect, to try to keep your person engaged, socialization, but also to let others know that there's going to be a slower response. So give them room to listen and to respond, and because there is that delay, and have them understand that. But the socialization is very important for both of you.
That's such a good point, Gail, because so often people think that they need to talk because there's a gap and the person is just trying to formulate their thoughts, and then they're not able to get them out. So again, we need to give cue cards to our friends in our community and help them. And, Fernando, I hope you can do that with your father as well for his friends and his community, because I think, again, it's hard, right? It's hard to see the isolation that happens with Parkinson's.
Yeah, absolutely. That's he has been going out of his way to make new connections and rekindle old ones. So he is really good about that. We can definitely do better because sometimes he does get isolated. But yeah, that's great advice. Thank you.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, everybody has contributed so much today. I want to thank everyone in the chat, everyone who's listening for showing up, everyone who tunes in later. This is for you. And this is going to help your person with Parkinson's. But we hope first and foremost that it helps you. Jenna, thanks so much for hosting us today.
Yeah, thank you all for going on the ride. And we thank you all so much for being here. Until next month.
I hope Dennis and I hope Dennis and Fernando will come back, please.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for being here. And as Connie mentioned, these are just a handful of our amazing ambassadors. So they're here every day of the year, actually, for folks. So please lean on them if they can be helpful.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Gail and Pat, as well. You guys are awesome. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
You all. Be well.